All right, welcome back. Now, in this last episode, we learned how to fully ride the camel and get off the camel. But there's one problem with the camel. And this episode, what I wanted to do is teach you how to build. Because, like, my idea is that you come across this house, you're not going to be able to get into this house until you do a quest, which we'll learn how to do quests later. But then you could build onto this house, like you can add things like the stable here. So before we get to the stable, let's fix the camel. So let me show you what I mean by there is something wrong here. So when you get on the camel, everything's cool and you can get off the camel wherever you want to. But if you get off the camel next to a wall, like let's say I'm parked this way. Hold on. Let me turn around. Let's say I'm parked this way and I get off the camel and I'm next to this wall. It's gonna get me stuck in our teleport room. You see? That is the problem we need to fix. So let's see if we can try to fix that before we move into the stable, and then we'll learn how to build the stable, which that shouldn't take too long at all. So in our camel blueprint, what we need to do is open that up real quick. And we see there's a scene 1. We need there to be a scene 2. So duplicate scene 1, and we're going to call it scene 2. And move it to the opposite side. So over here. So now, what we need to do is on scene 1, the scene regular one, we need to add a static mesh. So add a static mesh. And this will be a cube. This is going to be our test cube, or what can we call it? Collision block. Okay, this is called our collision block. And make it into like a sphere. Find a sphere. Yep, that's what you want. And make sure it's kind of in the middle here. So click back on your scene and make sure the collision block is in the middle, right there. And you can kind of make it smaller too, because all we need for it to do is see if it overlaps something. So down here where it says block all dynamic, make sure it says overlap all. And also make sure the visibility is set to off. So turn the visibility off. Now, when this collision block overlaps something, so down here on begin overlap, the camel, it doesn't have the third person character's teleport. So let's go there as well. So open up your third person character. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this teleport up right here. So this time it teleports to the camel to the scene 1 or scene. We need another one of these that teleports to scene 2. So I'm just going to copy in the third person character, paste, and teleport to camel. I'm going to call this a custom event, and I'm going to call it other teleport to camel. Boom. And the only thing I'll change out here is where it says scene. I'm going to make it say scene 2. Get scene 2. Plug that in. Plug that in. Okay. So in the event interaction, when you get onto the camel, boom, but when you get off the camel. So we were trying to do the get off the camel. So we need a variable to trigger. Because where it says teleport to camel, this is where we need to do a check and see if that thing is being overlapped. So the collision block on begin overlap, what we could say is set a variable. So down here in the plus sign, let's make a variable called blocked. Okay. All right, make sure each one of your objects that you're just going to stand beside, like a wall or something like that, has generate overlap events turned on. So that's something that it may not have on by default. So you might have to go through all of your stuff that you placed and make sure that it has it turned on. So even though it's blocking, we need it to overlap as well, the overlap events that need to take place. So let's go through this whole wall, each part of it. Even the stable here. Let's see the stable. See, the stable doesn't have it on. This wall doesn't have it on. The trees probably have it on though. That's cool. And we can also do the front of the house here, just to make sure that this game is fail proof. And you'd have to go through your city and do that as well. So make sure all your buildings have that that part turned off as well. Generate overlap events turned on, excuse me. All right, now that everything is set to generate overlap, from the collision block, you could say on overlap, on begin overlap. All we need to do is pull off other actor and say is overlapping actor. And you'll say collision block as the target. So if anything is overlapping the target, then print the string hello. Well, let's just print block so we know it's not hello. Blocked. All right, and also set that variable blocked set to true. And then if it's not overlapping, we need to set it back to false. So down here on end overlap, which, why does it keep on moving so far? Let's turn this inventory toggle. Let's get this out the way. All right, so on the end overlap, same thing, collision block is overlapping actor. And if that is true, oops, copy, paste. So on end overlap, what's going to happen is when it stops overlapping the other actor, it's going to say, is this being overlapped? If that's true, block. But if it's false, unblock. I believe that should work right there. If it doesn't, if the unblocked part doesn't work, then we'll tweak it a little bit later. But we got to get to the stable. So we're going to call it unblocked. So this is working. The block and unblocked is working. Blocked. Blocked. So if I try to get off here, it's still going to send me to the teleport room. But now that we have that code where it says it's blocked, and we wrote that other code, we can go back to our camel right here. And right when we teleport to the camel, we could do a check here. So right here, we need to put a branch and see if blocked is true. If blocked is true, oops, get blocked, my bad. Get blocked. If that is true, then instead of teleporting to camel, then what we're going to do is teleport to the other camel. So other teleport. So drag off of this get and say other teleport to camel and put that true there. And then plug up the rest there. Boom. So this way, it should take us to the other side of the camel instead of taking us down here to this room. So let's watch that work. And then we'll move on to the stable. All right, get up in here. Let's go ahead and get blocked up by this wall. Do a U-turn. Blocked. Perfect. Now we're on the other side of the camel. So now you're never going to get sent to the teleport room unless this whole system malfunctions. You know what I'm saying? Which it should not malfunction because it's working pretty good. Let's see if we can do this too. Let's see if we can just condense this code. And I'm just going to try something real quick. Oh, you know what we didn't do? We just didn't set unblocked. Set it to untrue. There we go. There we go. Now everything is working correctly. So let's get on to the stable. So how are we going to do this stable? This stable needs to be something you can craft, but it's not like something from your crafting menu. Okay, this is something that you're going to run across and you're going to be able to craft. So let's take this stable and let's make it into a blueprint. So I'm going to go ahead and just click blueprint over here and call it stable blueprint and put it in my third person, not the camel folder. Let's put it in another folder. Put it in my third person, blueprints, assets, Yeah, we could put it there. So there, we're going to put a blueprint there. We're going to call it the stable blueprint. And that is what we're working with now. All right, so for this stable blueprint, first thing we need to do is we need to make a new material. All right, so let me replace this with the stable blueprint. All right, so let's make a new material. In our blueprints folder, there's a folder called materials. So right click and make a new material. And this is going to be called green light. How about like a placement material? Placement underscore mat. And what we got to do for this is we got to make hold number 3 to get a color. Let's double click into that color and let's make it a light green. Like, for me, I wanted that color green. All right, so make it this color green, and we're going to plug this up into the base color. But we need to click on this node right here, and on the left-hand side, we need to make it translucent, and we need to hold down the number 1 and click so we can get this parameter or scalar value and put it into opacity. And we're going to put it up to like something like, I don't know, honestly. Let's put it up to like 0.2. That looks good to me. So that's going to be our placement material. Now, what we want is in this blueprint right here, so let's go into it real quick. So open the blueprint, open the full thing. Now, the viewport is going to show us this stable. We want to keep this material. So let's find out what material that is. It's called stable. Easy. All right, so we're going to change that material. But the first thing we need to do is let's change the material initially to placement material. All right, so there we go. Now it's a placement material. And what we need to also do is add a sphere collision so that, actually, I'm gonna do a box collision on this one because I want it to show how much you need for how much supplies you need to build this stable. So I'm going to make the box collision do that right there. All right, boom. Compile and save. Okay, so let's look at it into our world. So there we go. Now when we walk close to it, we need to pop up a pop-up that says how much wood we need to build this stable. So I think wood is pretty much the only thing that I'm gonna need, scrap wood. So I'm gonna say 20 pieces of scrap wood, right? So let's do a little pop-up that's like 20 pieces of scrap wood. And this is gonna be, if you go back to your HUDs, this is gonna be very similar to the items that pop up, the little pop-up that comes up for the items. So what we can do is, let's make a new one real quick. And all it's gonna do is, let's say, new HUD. So user interface, widget blueprint, user widget at the top there. And we're gonna call this one, I don't know, build pop-up. Maybe we'll make it variable underscore WB. All right. So here, I think we need to do over here on the fit screen. I can't remember. Let's do a custom. And we're going to put some text here, basically. And all the text is going to say is going to be binded. But it's going to say out of 0 out of 0 scrap wood. 0 out of 20 scrap wood. That's what it's going to say. So let's just compile and save that. And let's go back to the stable blueprint and add to the static mesh widget. And that widget class that we're going to add is that one that we just made, which is called the build pop-up, right? And the draw size, that says 500 by 500, but let's go ahead and see what it actually looks like here. So put it on screen, maybe, or put it on a world. There it goes, way up there. All right, so now that you got it in the position that you want it, it should show up in the world. And let's see if it does actually. I got it faced the wrong way. There we go. All right, it shows up in the world. So we only wanted it to show up when the player gets close to that box. So if the player overlaps that box, that's when we want it to show up. So let's go back to this here, and let's make the widget invisible right now. So go down to the visibility, set that off, event graph on the box, overlap, other actor, third person character. And what we want to do is just take that widget and make it visible, set visibility, and set it to true. Now get that box and do an end overlap. End overlap right here, and do the same thing, third person character, and set it, the visibility of this widget, to false. Wow. All right, so now when you walk into that box, you're going to be able to see the visibility. Let's make the extents of the box a little bit bigger. Yeah, like that. All right, so when you walk into the box, you're going to be able to see that pop-up come up. So let's try that out. And the last part about this episode is we're going to actually build it. So it doesn't tell me right. I need to make that widget come down, okay? Because it's like, yeah, it's too high. We need to put it on the ground in front of it. The player can't see it. So compile, save, make it invisible once more. And that should be good. Now we need to also, on the class settings here, let's go and put an implemented interface. So add to interface, interaction interface. That's the one that we need, because when we get inside that box, we want to be able to build this stable if we have enough wood. So let's go ahead and check out that widget first, and then we'll get to building it. 0 out of 20 scrap wood. 0 out of 20 scrap wood. Cool. Oh, you know what else we need to do right now? Because this is not built yet, we need to also make sure that the collision is turned off of it. So event begin play, set collision of the static mesh to no collision. All right, so when the player goes in there, they need to have at least 20 scrap wood to build this thing. So when they do get 20 scrap wood, they can press E and they're going to be able to build it. So let's put that code in there. Let's make that happen. So back in the editor, right click and say interact, event interact. When the player does interact with this, then we need to check and see how much scrap wood they have. So third person, cast your third person character, get player character, then get scrap wood from the player character. And then see if it's greater than or equal to, because they can just have 20. And if that is true, then they can build the house. So what we do is just make a custom event for building the thing. So let's make a custom event, and it's going to be called build house or build stable. All right, and all we're going to do for this is we're going to get the collision. So get the static mesh collision that we did at event begin play, paste that, and put collision enabled, and then also get the static mesh here and say set material to stable. And then and then what you want to do is set the material to stable. And then you want to get rid of that widget. So grab the widget and destroy component. So then it won't pop up anymore. And you can also destroy the box component too, because you don't need that anymore either. So let's just see all of that working together. Check. So right now, just for testing purposes, let's say 2 scrap wood, and we're going to do 20. So if they have greater than or equal than 2, then we're going to build stable. All right, cool. And if, for testing, was that 2? I'm going to put it back up at 20. But also, I need to show you something else that we can do there. So, one and 2. And there's the stable. There you go. Now it's built. One more thing is, let's tie that widget to our player real quick. Lots of errors there. Let's tie that widget to our player though. So here where it says 0 out of 20 scrap wood, let's actually go here where the binding and create a binding. So get our third person character, get player character, and we're going to get scrap wood and plug that in. Minimal integral digits is 2. So it's going to say format. Let's do the format. Format text, and it's going to say scrap wood. So curly bracket scrap wood, curly bracket, slash 20 scrap wood. So there we go, plug that in. And what should happen now is it should say out of 20 scrap wood. Let's not destroy the widget component, but let's destroy the box component, right? Because I saw some errors pop up last time, and I think that might conquer those errors. Last test here, and this should end the episode on a good note. All right. Get 1 scrap wood, 2 scrap wood. Walk in here, it says I have 2 out of 20 scrap wood. Perfect. I build it, and it's built. Perfect. Now we know how to build things. So what you could do is you can say, what else around the house do I want to build? And we'll just go through the same process with that thing. It just copy this blueprint basically, and just do the same thing for any other thing you want to build. And just make it so that you have the right amount of supplies for it, and you can have a building frenzy. And that's the end of this episode. So I hope you learned something. Yeah, I'll holler at you on the next one. Peace.
Run to the money, on my feet, don't fail. The DA and the judge, wanna do their best to jail. I done heard it all.